What is up, guys? It's your boy Wahpoh here, back with a brand new video for Marvel Strike Force. And today, you guys, I have a very special guest with me. I have Saw Owner, aka Saw Ska, aka the number one ranked Cosmic Crucible player in Marvel Strike Force for season 11. What's up, Ska? How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm good, good. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining, man. I'm really excited to have you on the call. So I just wanted to ask you a couple questions. How long have you been playing Marvel Strike Force? Um, let's start with that one.
I started playing in around June of 2022, so about 2.5 years.
2.5 years. Cool. And what is your current TCP at the moment?
Honestly, I don't keep track of my TCP. It's around 120 mil, I think, last time I checked.
120 mil.
Just because it's not super important right now.
Gotcha.
The number that is.
Yeah, everything is kind of inflated, right? Um,
Yeah.
and how long have you been ranked number one this season?
Um, I've been ranked one for about maybe 4 weeks this season. I think 4 or 5 weeks this season.
4 or 5 weeks.
I've been like around top three for the last few seasons. But this season I've been ranked one for about 4 or 5 weeks.
Wow. Nice, nice. And yeah, I mean you're 126 million TCP, so you're doing some massive, massive punch ups every single week, aren't you?
Yes, but in terms of Cosmic Crucible, the total power is not as important because you're looking at the only the CC meta characters, and I do have a lot of them maxed out. So like a lot of my CC meta characters are pretty much as big as the top Krakens. So it's not that big of a difference. The biggest difference would be the newest characters. So like Astral, I don't have them maxed out.
Hmm.
I probably won't have a Kahori or Absolute A-Force maxed out. So usually, um, those are the ones that I will be lacking in. But for like all the other meta stuff like Annihilators, I do have them maxed out. Illuminati, I do have them maxed out.
Awesome. Okay, cool. So thank you so much for joining me, and we're going to be going over a few things today. So we have a few topics that we're going to go over with Ska. So let's get right into it. All right, the first thing we're going to go over is going to be the best teams slash variations of teams in each room. The second thing we're going to talk about is just some of the best or most common counters for each of these teams. And then the last thing is just a quick kill order, who you should focus first when fighting said team. All right, so I just wanted to kind of ask you really quick. So I have here this slide here titled rooms 3 and 6. So in terms of like the rooms this season that are a little bit more nuanced or like very particular as far as like what defense teams you should be putting in what rooms, would you say that rooms 3 and 6 are sort of the most niche this season?
I think they're the most different than the rest for sure. Um, so even before the season began, we kind of figured out that raid room is always going to be a very different meta than usual. And room six with the immunity safeguard and the non-healing is obviously a big change in terms of what characters are going to benefit or suffer from that room.
Okay, awesome. All right, the first room we're going to talk about is going to be room 3, which is going to be the raid buff room. Five of the Should we just put all five of the
We
teams
can
up
skip
there?
the rest because I think Spider Society is pretty much all we need to worry about.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
I think the remaining four pictures, with the exception of maybe the third picture, are pretty much non-factors as long as the first one is relevant. Because Spider Side just destroys everything.
Yeah.
They have insane raid boosts. Whereas the other newer characters, the newer raid teams don't have raid boosts. So Spider Side ends up just one-shotting Orcus. They probably one-shot Night Stalkers. They definitely one-shot Alpha Flight
Hmm.
and they may not one shot Super Scroll, but if you add in North Star in there, they should be able to do that as well. Mephisto variations aren't usually good because Spider Society can one shot a lot of them, including Mephisto Spider Society. They can be one shot with full Spider Society. The only Mephisto team that's worth talking about, in my opinion, is Mephisto Night Stalkers. I think that's the only Mephisto team in Group 3 that cannot be reliably one-stopped by Spider Society. So if you're gonna run Mephisto in 3, that's probably the only team that makes sense.
Okay, so Mephisto Night Stalkers is the best variation
It's
of
the
a
it's the best variation of Mephisto in 3. But even then, you're still probably better off running Mephisto elsewhere. Um, but if you wanted to have, like, let's say you had to run Mephisto in 3, that would be the team you put him in.
awesome. Okay. And as far as the counters, I know you just talked about it, but I'm just going to add this in the video. As far as the counters for some of these teams here, Spider Society is pretty much going to run over all of these teams here. So for the Spider Society mirror match, for Orcus, you can use the Night Stalkers or Spider Society. Alpha Flight,
Yeah, it's
Spider
pretty much
Society,
Spider Society for all
all
of
across the board.
them.
Yeah. And then,
Exactly.
yeah, you said the last one was if you see a variation of Hive Mind with Scroll, a safer team to use would be Spider Society with North Star, correct?
Yeah, generally just Super Scroll in general, because Spider Society have too many buffs. So if you see a Super Scroll on defense in 3, um, of course Spider Society can work, but it's riskier than if you did North Star with Spider Society, and you would drop Noir in that case.
Drop Noir, yeah, and the reason why is because North Star, he has the same mechanics as Captain Britain. You said correct?
He is like Captain Britain, that's only for the enemy team, but only in raids.
Gotcha. Okay, awesome. So he's gonna basically neuter Scroll from getting
Yeah.
speed bar. Gotcha. And then comps with Mephisto. We're actually gonna be coming out with a video that's gonna talk about more. That's gonna talk more about compositions with Mephisto for one shotting. Like if you want to be as efficient as possible, it's gonna be revolving around Odin. But the safest thing that you could do if you see a Mephisto on defense is to double sack it and then use the right counter. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think it's very hard to go wrong with double sacking Mephisto, because you just neutralize his effectiveness. He doesn't do much once he's double stacked.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay. Uh, and then the last thing I wanted to touch on would just be the mirror. If you're doing the mirror match, if you see a Spider Society in room 3 and you're doing the mirror match, typically I like to go for Peter B and then kill Penny. So that would be like my sort of turn order or kill order, so to speak. But you said that it's better to target any enemy with a heal block.
Yeah, so the problem with trying to focusing down one character in the mirror match is that there's a thing called Ghost Spider passive, and she likes to put enemies into stealth when they get low. So a lot of times, if you're trying to focus down one character, um, it won't work well because they'll go into stealth and you can't focus them anymore. The better approach I've found is to just, react to the situation. If someone is low and has heal block, even if it's not PvP, even if it's just a path or even Ghost Spider, you can focus them down. Generally, targeting the lowest member with heal block is the right idea.
Awesome. And then when doing this matchup, there is that risk of timeout. So you don't really want to be thinking too much in between the turns, right? Because I've actually
Yeah.
experienced the timeout myself.
Yeah, it's because of the animation timers. Every character, especially Peter B. Parker, has insanely long animation timers, so you don't really have too much time to think in between turns. So it's better that you kind of have an idea of how the fight will play out, what your priorities will be, and then go into it and kind of take less than 5 seconds to think between turns, because otherwise, timing out is a real risk.
Okay, fantastic. Awesome. That was really good. Okay, awesome, dude. Room 6, we have Updog's Room, which reads that on offense and defense, all characters reduce all healing by 100%, as well as spawning with Safeguard, Defense Up, and Immunity. And I have two teams here. The first one is this variation of Annihilators with Mephisto and Sus. Can you talk a little bit about why this team is so strong in Room 6?
This team is actually very strong in Room 6 because they're actually harder to one shot in Room 6 than outside of Room 6. Normally, Mephisto teams are weaker in Room 6 because of the immunity, and he normally puts out trauma. But because of this specific team composition and the fact that their counter their one-shot counter, which involves Odin, is actually worse in Room 6 as well because Odin can't heal. And so a lot of people will try to one-shot this team with Odin using a subpar team with Odin and fail. And they'll have to either keep it or cancel and try again or potentially not clear. So if you're not sure about which team to put your Mephisto with, this is probably the strongest Mephisto team on defense right now, and the strongest room to put them in.
Awesome, awesome. Okay, and then the other team that I've been noticing and I've been fighting against myself is going to be full Illuminati, but the stronger variation of this would be Illuminati with Odin. But uh, you said that this team is typically not used in six. It's typically seen more in like rooms two, four, and five. Correct?
Right, and that's because of one specific reason, is that Illuminati's primary counter is Superior Six with Vulture. And normally what happens if you try to one-shot Illuminati with Superior Six with Vulture is that the Fury will go and target your Green Goblin Classic with ability block and strip all your charges, and then he won't be able to ultimate. However, in Room 6, everyone spawns with immunity. So it means that the Fury can't ability block your Green Goblin Classic, and your Green Goblin Classic will actually be able to ult turn one, even without sacking the room. So it's actually not advisable, in my opinion, to put Illuminati in room 6 just because you're giving your opponents extra options to deal with your team.
Gotcha, gotcha. Cool. Um, And then this is actually a team that you created that a lot of members of the community have been using. Can you tell us your thought process as far as like putting this team together? Because this right here with Odin, Nightcrawler, and the three piece of Superior Six is a really good one shot counter to Illuminati Odin outside of Room Six. So I've seen this one shot Illuminati Odin's in Room Four. But can you tell us a little bit about how you came up with this team and what your thought process was behind this team?
So I had been experimenting with Odin on offense against Illuminati Odin on defense. And I was experimenting with Echo, experimenting with Apocalypse on my Logan. Basically, Echo was one of the important members in all of my experiments because he would prevent their Odin from getting assist, and therefore, when he's special, he wouldn't put out the battlefield effect. Now that was so ingrained that I didn't see this team. I actually discovered this team accidentally. I was using this team to counter Illuminati Mephisto, and I figured that against Illuminati Mephisto, this team works very well because your Nightcrawler speeds up your Odin, and then your Odin gets to do his special, and then it won easily. And then the next day, I faced an Illuminati Odin, and I had the team saved, and I booted it up, and I just loaded the save team. And then in my head, I'm like, wait a minute, I can do the same thing against Illuminati Odin, where Nightcrawler takes the job of Echo because he stuns the Black Panther Fury. And since Black Panther Fury is the only character who goes before Odin, anyways, if he's stunned, then there is no assist to have to cancel with Echo. And Nightcrawler is actually a little bit better than Echo as well because of his ultimate being able to script the Odin charges, and so that's how I came up with this team. It's pretty accidental, but it's a very cool counter, I think.
Yeah, it is. That is freaking awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, and then so yeah, so as you were saying, as far as like the turn order, the kill, the what you want to do, like what the first ability is that you want to do right out the gate. We want to stun the Sherry with the Nightcrawler special, and then we're just going to all in the Odin. But one key thing that you talked about was using the basic with Odin, right? So why don't you want to use the special as opposed to the basic when you're doing this matchup?
So this matchup always boils down to Odin v Odin, and we want to save our special because the special gives us 5 charges, and if we use it too early, the charges will be lost whenever an enemy takes a turn, and we want to have as many charges when it comes down to Odin v Odin as possible. So what will happen if we basic? Their Odin will special first. He will get the 5 charges, but he'll lose them as my characters are taking turns. By the time he runs out of charges, your Odin should be able to get charges. And so in a 1v1, an Odin v Odin, if you have charges and their Odin doesn't, you're taking 25% less damage, you can't get debuffs, you just have a huge advantage, and you're going to use those charges to kind of win the 1v1 because normally it's stacked against you since characters on defense get 20% more stats. You do actually need to have the charge advantage to be able to win the 1v1 afterward.
Gotcha. And do you have any favorite ISOs preference for Odin, or for any of these characters? Like, would you want to have Nightcrawler as a skirmisher to make sure she lands that stun on Shuri?
So I did skirmisher because again, in my initial use of this team, it was against Illuminati Mephisto, and Mephisto was putting out offense down with this battlefield with his empowered thing. So I ran him as skirmisher there. But I think skirmisher is still good even against the Odin version, and that's because when Nightcrawler ults, he has a chance to strip the charges from Odin, and that can get resisted because Odin has a very strong resistance stat. So
Hmm.
it's always nice to make sure you get that. And he doesn't really need to do damage. All the damage is going to be done by your Odin anyways. So Raider's not really providing much beyond just a little bit of extra vulnerable.
Awesome. Okay. And then any Odin prefer or any ISO preferences for Odin? Like, I know we talked about a fortifier Odin being on the enemy team that could be a little bit problematic.
So the ISO for Odin is actually interesting. I think Raider is an option. The problem with Raider is that Captain Britain has a passive where if he has taunt, he reduces your crit chance by 100%. So this is something that not a lot of people realize. And for this fight, actually, sometimes I think it's better to focus Captain Britain down first, so you start getting the extra crit chance, especially if you're running Raider on Odin.
Hmm.
Riker on Odin here can work, but it requires you to use a lot of raiders to stack up vulnerables on the enemy Odin, and then when it comes down to Odin v Odin, you're going to use those vulnerables to try to win with the extra with the extra striker attack, try to win the 1v1 a little bit more decisively. Of course, both of these are potentially countered by someone on defense running a fortifier Odin, which we started to see a little bit to counter this counter. And Fortifier Odin is annoying because he will remove vulnerable from himself whenever he takes a turn. So, and especially in room two where you're getting offense down, it can make it tougher, if not, almost impossible to win. In the case of Fortifier Odin, what I would recommend is to further delay your special if possible. So normally you basic and then you special. So maybe if you're against Fortifier Odin, if you can try to maybe basic, then special to try to again to get the extra charge advantage against the enemy Odin. And I think you'll have a better chance there.
Okay, awesome, fantastic. I have a question for you. So you said Captain Britain's is it something in Captain Britain's passive that stops the crit chance, or that reduces the crit chance, or is it a passive thing? When he taunts, or where does that come from?
So Captain Britain, I believe, has a passive that says that whenever he is taunting, um, all enemy characters lowered crit chance by 100%.
Okay,
Not
and does
only that, but he also puts out passively, just puts out a lot of deflects on all his allies,
yeah,
which also prevents crits. So you definitely want to kill Captain Britain as soon as possible.
yeah, and does that passive persist through death as well? Just like as
Uh,
this the speed.
I'm actually not sure because some passive persists to death, but because this passive is conditional, it says while this character has taunt, I would have to assume that it does not persist through death.
Okay,
It's
okay,
only while he has taunt, which he will get it if he either
yeah,
specials or ultimate.
right. He has to be alive to get taunt, obviously. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, okay, makes sense. And as we know, death is the best status effect.
Some passives persist through death, like Morgan Le Fay's passive. If you kill her before you kill any of her allies in the Darkhold team, she will permanently cancel your assist chance even through death. It's kind of annoying.
That's crazy. See, yeah, see. I don't know how you know that, but that's awesome. Okay. All right, and then last thing we wanted to touch on with room six, we're going to bring up the graphic again. We wanted to just kind of talk about Ares now. The Ares and Apocalypse as well. So Ares and Apocalypse, these are two plug and play characters that you want to be using and on offense, not on defense, on offense. And can you talk a little bit about these characters and when you should use them?
Generally, you use them to cancel out safeguards. That's the lion's share of their value. For Ares for sure. Apocalypse, yes, he has an power punch, but especially with Room Six, because both teams are getting immunity and safeguard. And a lot of teams, let's say like you're fighting against the newest Astral team in six, right? If they have safeguard immunity and they have new stats and they're tanky and they can potentially revive, without having an Ares or an Apocalypse to flip those immunity to disrupts, it's gonna be hard to take them down before they get a turn. And you don't want Astral Team taking turns because they're slow, but once they take turns, they're gonna hurt a lot.
Gotcha. Yeah, and we talked about Gladiator, right? Being a huge issue. Like if you see an Annihilator's team on defense in Room Six, is it kind of a must-have to bring, or is it kind of a like a must-do thing to bring Ares or Apocalypse for an Annihilator's team?
Pretty much. Unless you're using Odin or something. Just like overkill it because Gladiator spawns with immunity, safeguard, and taunt. So if you don't have Ares or Apot, he's gonna have safeguarded immunity, taunt, and you're just gonna be stuck on him for ages, while the rest of his team is wrecking you. So whenever you're facing against Annihilators, it's always nice, if not necessary, to have Ares or Apot.
And what has your experience been using Apocalypse into Captain Britain? Like, do you feel like it's almost like not worth it because he's not going to get his empowered punch right away, or
That's a
like,
very interesting question. Actually, I found that despite him not getting the Empower Punch right away, um, I feel like Apocalypse is a very strong character to bring into Illuminati and specifically Captain Britain um, because of Hank Pym's passive. Hank Pym's passive gives everyone a 40% of his health barrier whenever they drop below 40%. And so in my counters, in my experience, whenever I'm using like Superior Six with Apocalypse, I'll do a lot of damage with my Green Goblin Classic, and then they'll drop below 40% and they'll have like this massive barrier. And it's nice because Apoc's ultimate clears all the barrier away. And so even though he's not getting an Empower Punch, he's doing quite a bit with just that barrier clear.
yeah,
It's very nice to have.
with just the ultimate alone. Plus, he's going to get, if they
Yeah.
don't have safeguard, he'll get the nice flip and trauma and stuff. Um,
Yeah.
that's awesome. Okay, cool. Um, well, any last words? That I mean, that's pretty much all we have. As far as rooms one, two, 4 and 5, those are kind of like real generic rooms. So we really just wanted to kind of touch on the more nuanced rooms in this video, just rooms 3 and 6. But anything else you want to add as far as like this season goes? I know this video we're putting it out. It's a little bit late in the season. There's only like 7 days left, but a lot of these teams encounters, we're going to be seeing a lot next season.
Yeah. So, since it's the end of the season, I don't mind sharing it. But room 1 and 6 have been bugged since the start of the season. So I don't know if you've noticed or if anyone has noticed, but room one, the characters aren't doing 100% extra damage for every vulnerable because I mean, we would see much bigger like one shots that than we have been seeing. And so based on I did some like investigation, and it seems like to me that the room is bugged that they're actually only doing 10% more damage per vulnerable. That seems to be more in line of what I've been observing throughout the entire season. And room 6 is also bugged. It says that characters cannot heal, but it does not include on spawn healing or healing that happens before the first character takes a turn. So it seems like it's a buff that's being applied whenever the first character of that match takes a turn. Then from that moment on, no characters can heal. But if you have healing that happens on spawn or before the first turn, then it actually works. So a lot of times you'll see Super Scroll in Room 6 getting a massive heal on spawn because with all the buffs that happen on the offensive team, on the enemy team,
Yeah.
but that's happening on spawn, so he is actually healed. So
Th- th-
it has to do with some of that stuff. But I've known about it for a while. I didn't really share it with anyone. It's not game breaking, but it's interesting that Scopely can fail to account for this stuff.
Doesn't surprise me either. Yeah, I've actually noticed that doesn't Doctor Strange have some type of on spawn healing? Because I actually have noticed certain characters like Doctor Strange, being able to heal. Like if like I remember going into a sack one time, or going into a room, or going into a team in room 6 that had a Doctor Strange in it, and sacking it and getting them to like, I don't know, 70% health, and then I go back in for the cleanup, and Doctor Strange is full health again.
Yeah, so Doctor Strange has a passive that whenever he gets to 5 charges, he gets a massive heal, I think. And so if he somehow ends the match with 5 charges, and then he starts the next fight with those 5 charges, then because it's happening before the first character takes a turn, then
Yeah.
it'll work. He will heal.
Wow. Yeah. That is super interesting.
All right, I'm mistaken. His healing is not tied to his charges. His healing is whenever there's a positive effect applied to an enemy. So I just checked it. Yeah, it's the same thing with Super Scroll. They both heal when there's a positive effect on the enemy team. So Doctor Strange will heal similarly to Super Scroll. That's my
Awesome.
mistake.
No, you're fine. You're fine. No, I just want to say thank you, man. I just want to say thank you for coming on here and sharing your wealth of knowledge for the game. I'm very very excited to be able to get this out to people, and hopefully we can collaborate again soon and talk about next season. And we do have a couple videos lined up for you guys that are going to be talking about Illuminati as well as how to sack properly. Sacking in Cosmic Crucible is become such a prevalent thing, and especially with these turtle metas, you have to learn how to sack properly. So keep an eye out for that. And I just want to say thank you, man, for coming on here and doing this video with me.
Not at all. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you guys like and subscribe to the channel. I'm going to be putting Saw Owner's Twitch in the description, as well as my Twitch link in the description as well. And you guys can catch me live on Twitch every single day streaming Marvel Strike Force. And Cosmic Crucible is my favorite game mode. And I hope to see you guys again soon.